Circle Camp. My first question is kind of just around your own experiences. Talk a little bit about how you kind of acquired the language and what you've been doing for it since.
So we'll first introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Who we are, what we do, who we work for, why we're here. You know? So okay, Mr. Mechanical at that's Kanasui. My name is Emmette. We work for this nonprofit called Black Feet Eco Knowledge, and it's really awesome that you got both of us here. Colton will introduce himself in a second, but I acquired the language through a language revitalization school, an immersion program called Nitipuas, the Black Feet Language Immersion School.
Gusto ko kutak pikin to skat pikan ki dapat mo naka makoi sa popok ki neganis sinema to ko niti boxen nani sister ki nani sinema to ki niti boxen nice to here so I said my name is Otakokitopi, rides around the camp specifically, and then I said I've been learning the language for about 8 years or so, and then teaching for about 5 or 6.
It's really awesome that you get to see both perspectives, because I had the privilege of going the immersion school kindergarten through 8th grade. Kindergarten through 8th grade, but in Skanamos, he picked up the language by himself, and he started teaching himself, and he just dove into the language in any which way he can. I really have a lot of respect. That's why I wanted him to be here, and not our other shield kid cruisers, because if you want to learn a language, you have to study it over every single day. You have to, and then the privileges over here at Alkukatsin, we get the privileges of using it instead of just using common phrases and speaking conversational Blackfoot. Here we get to speak spiritual Blackfoot to each other.
If you could go into a little more detail about how Cutswood kind of worked and what the experience was like how much Blackfoot was spoken. Was there any English at all?
So you tried to 100% the language, but you ultimately had to use English to translate everything. Kindergarten to 4th grade was like the book acts, the children, numbers and colors, the hymns, the rhymes, the to use total physical response. You get into 5th grade to about 8th grade, you start learning about Blackfoot syntax and Blackfoot composition, and we call it utaku, like circle time, where we'd all come together. That's how we started to revitalize culture and language at the same time.
From your perspective, how was going back into an English-speaking college? Do you think speaking Blackfoot gave you any hindrance, or was it actually something that was good for you?
I hated it. I thought I was stupid, and it was the exact opposite. All the Cutswood kids that come into high school, they superseded everything because we got work ethic there. And that's not their fault,
Whose fault do you think it is?
It's historical trauma, that's what that is. Ripped from our cultural identity and not having, respect. 'Cause
most people.
our elders were ripped from their mothers, and they were put into all these boarding schools amongst other little kids, and they were taught what we were doing was bad, and we were gonna go to hell. It started that cycle of effect, and that's generational trauma right there.
And you think that's still here today?
Very much. There's only, I want about 5% speak our language. Have the privilege of working it. Yeah. And that's 5% is being generous. It's going up. It's going up. Yeah.
My next question is actually for Colton. I was wondering, since you learned Blackfoot on your own and not in an institution, what kind of motivated you at the start to learn the language?
Kind of a funny story. So I got back, and it was my first time kind of getting back into the language. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm just gonna have to go out and learn myself. So I'm not really gonna get much help from school. And so that same year I joined this native science program with So Ishigaki was my first teacher, and I was the only kid from the elementary schools that was a part of that program. Everybody else was from Cutswood. And during that first half hour, they just blow me out of the water because she'd point at different things and ask them to say it, and I'm so ashamed because they were all younger than me. Still say I'm still learning it. I'm still learning the language even today. I'm 20. I started back when I was like 11, 12. So 8 years of just learning every day. And I didn't have a lot of access to elders back then. I didn't know anybody that spoke Blackfoot. It'd be pretty rare. And so my next biggest resources were when I finally did find some elders that could speak the language. And so just speaking with them, using the little words that I knew, you kind of learn a lot from that.
And were they willing to teach you, or were they like kind of also in that historical trauma where speaking Blackfoot was associated with pain?
We have transfers here, and a lot of the transferred elders, they want to give their knowledge. They're hungry to give it, and there's not enough kids like ourselves out and get it.
How does the transfer system work here?
So when you get your first transfer, you have an push you into life. What an elder will do for you. They'll take your hand and they'll walk you through steps.
So on the reservation today, kind of what % of children go to an immersion school like Cutswood?
There's only one.
Only one?
One, and that's Cutswood.
Oh, okay.
And there's 26 kids that go in every year. So what I specifically do is I don't teach the language anymore. I try to create language environments. And I brought down 5 elders, and then I brought in 6 babies, or 6 elders, 6 babies, and we would put them in this language immersion setting, 20 minutes on, with about a 30-second break, and then we'd rotate our babies, and 20 minutes on with just pure undiluted Blackfoot being spoken to these 10 to 14-month-old babies. So like creating these language environments.
So when you ended up starting to learn Blackfoot, how did that kind of change your perception about becoming a
culture? Isn't just language, and culture is everything we do in everyday life. A lot of our so Maslow's hierarchy of needs is your basic needs, your love and identity, and it all goes all the way until self-actualization. But Blackfoot took it up a step further on a Blackfoot, and it's a big step. We went from self-actualization to community actualization, and then we took it to cultural perpetuity. It's not their fault that they went through historical trauma, but it is now my responsibility to try to save our community.
Where they live in a society where Blackfoot is not the spoken language, or Blackfoot culture is not practiced, do you think there's still a point to revitalizing their own culture and their own language? And if so, kind of why is that important?
Yeah, there's a lot of people do leave the community, It's hard to live around here. When people come home, they start feeling themselves, They say like, oh, I belong here, It's like a belonging, it's like a earning. Yeah. So
kind of had one last question to wrap up. And that's, what would you as, language preservationists say to other cultures around the world, that have their languages, that have their cultures suppressed? What would you call them to do if they can't, simply try to save their own languages?
So you start small. Steps are steps. Baby steps are steps. And that's the difference between preserving your language and revitalizing your language. Preservation is encapsulating. And we had to do that. The government was killing us for practicing our culture. They were very much killing us. We would die. We had to make our ceremonies at night. We had to practice on the 4th of July to pretend that we were practically celebrating Independence Day. We very much had to do that. We're not in that area anymore. We didn't have to suffer through those tragedies. But at the same time, that's the difference between preservation and revitalization. Revitalization is open, speaking it, bringing that breath of life into your languages and your cultures and practicing it every single day. But preservation is hiding it and preserving it. And so that's like creating a dictionary.
For all of the other communities that have been colonized or are currently being colonized or oppressed, best thing that they could do is connect. So that's really what the true strength is connection. And that's how I think our people survive, is staying connected to our ancestors, staying connected to our land, staying connected to our language, staying connected to really like the universe in the ways that we pray to the sun, the moon, the mountains, the trees, whatever it might be. I think that's what our strength was the connection. That would be my main message, is to think of your ancestors, whatever it might be. I can guarantee you your ancestors went through something tougher. Even for myself, whenever I'm having a tough time, say with school or with anything, life, I think, oh, I got it way easier than my ancestors.